Hi guys, it's Callum for Dossers Do Football. Um, Today I'm sort of doing something a little bit different. It's not a podcast for once. I'm doing a video in which I'm analysing Arsenal's squad. Now, it's not just going to be Arsenal, it's going to be a series of these where I go through every Premier League team, look at the players, look at the formation tactics, see what I would do personally with the players in terms of keep or sell or even loan, see what to do with the squad, what way I would play with it, what I'd do as the manager, what I feel would be better suited to the club. So starting with Arsenal because I'm doing it in alphabetical order. So no one get on to me about always doing Arsenal stuff, even though I'm a Palace fan. I'm doing alphabetical order. So it will obviously be Arsenal, Aston Villa, Brighton, Burnley, Chelsea, and so on. So I'm just I'm using Football Manager so that the squad screen is clear. It will give me a whole list of the squad. And when I go into tactics, it will allow me to put the players in and put them where I feel they should be playing. So let's start with the squad. Now, I've sorted it so we'll go by position. So starting with Matt Macy, who realistically is just a third choice goalkeeper, isn't he? There's nothing special. He's probably quite shit, if we're being perfectly honest. He's not played a lot for them. I'm not sure about how many times, but it can't be that much. Now, yeah, I think that's all that really needs to be said. He needs to be there as a third choice, but that's about it. Now, Alex Ronerson, this guy, um, I think we all saw his performance against Man City in the Carabao Cup. Shocking, shocking goalkeeper. He can't kick, he can't pass, he has no command of his area. He can't even save. Mahrez free kicks straight at him, straight through him. So to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what Arsenal thought when they signed him. He's not even that young. Obviously, 25 is relatively young for a goalkeeper, but in general, he's not really going to develop that much further. And considering they had Emil Martinez, who obviously I'll come on to in the Aston Villa video, well, I'm not sure too much more needs to be said about that. Bernd Leno, fantastic goalkeeper, fantastic player in my opinion. Um, as much as he gets stick at the moment, is mainly because of Emi Martinez. People sort of saw strengths in Emi that they don't see in Bernd, and they therefore sort of they had to compare them. But Leno is a fantastic shot stopper, an excellent shot stopper. Any like Henry, who also obviously will be on this channel for the podcast, he'll tell you to in his last breath will be Bernd Leno is the best goalkeeper in the league. He truly believes it, and as much as I don't agree with him, I see why. He's so reliable in goal. There's examples of him messing up. Maybe his kicking not the greatest, but I think as far as it goes, you've got in terms of top goalkeepers in the league, you've got Allison probably first. Edison is up there. His kicking's better than his goalkeeping, but let's just leave that as it is. Emi Martinez is probably up there. He's been fantastic for Aston Villa. Leno, this isn't an order, by the way. These are just, I'm sort of just naming names. And then Leno has to be up with that group, in my opinion. He has to be up there with genuinely some of the best in the league. Now, moving on to defenders. Socrates. I mean, he's not getting a look in at Arsenal. He's 32 years old. According to Football Manager, he's on 100 grand a week, and he doesn't play games. So I think realistically, Arsenal have to get him off the books. Um, like you can't have that kind of money, and especially as apparently he's quite an influential player. Your influential players need to be playing, otherwise, just that's how discontent starts to grow in squads. When the players that people look up to are unhappy, then it doesn't bode well for the club, to be perfectly honest. So I think with regard to Socrates, he has to go. in the words of Claude, it's time to go. So yeah, him, Socrates out. Now, Gabrielle, what a player. What a fantastic footballer Gabrielle is. Just he's come into the Arsenal side and he looks natural. He's a left-footed centre back, great stopper. He will shut people down, get on their toes, stop them getting through. He's a presence in the air. We saw his goal against Fulham was good. Good header, climbed above his man, headed it hard down low. He's brought sort of a calming influence to the back line. And as much as people sort of question it, he can't speak English at the moment, which obviously is an issue. When that comes, this guy he is already one of the best players in that team. And it can only come further. Only 22 years old is fantastic. Brazil, I'm not entirely sure if he has any caps, but I mean, they're soon to come. If you think of Brazil's aging centre backs like David Luiz, who we'll get onto, um, then you've got Thiago Silva, who's 36. There's the sort of contingent of that Brazil team is aging, and now you've got the likes of Gabriel, who will step up and fill the boots of a Thiago Silva, a David Luiz, and others of that like in the Brazil team. And in my opinion, he can really go straight to the top. Now, Rob Holding he's a player that divides opinion amongst Arsenal fans. I mean, I know Henry doesn't like him, and there's a few Arsenal fans that I speak to quite regularly on Twitter who really think he should be nowhere near the squad. I've heard championship player. I've heard he's a people say he might be a decent backup, but he should be nowhere near the Arsenal first team, and that is obviously where he is at the moment. But if you look, I mean, obviously he's English, it counts towards like registration rules and things like that you need in the Premier League. You need a certain amount of homegrown players. He's only 24, maybe 25 now in real life. He's he's relatively young. He's got sort of anywhere between 5 to 10 years left in him. So it's not a bad option to keep around at the club. He's not a bad centre back either. He's quite solid. He had a really good game against who was it? West Brom. He was fantastic. I know it's only West Brom. They might get relegated. They're down there right at the bottom of the league. But Rob Holding was fantastic. He won his headers. He did his job. He got rid of the ball when he needed to, and he looks like he is a half decent centre back in my opinion. Definitely one to keep at the club. Whether he's starting for Arsenal or not, that's sort of a different question, especially ahead of the likes of William Saliba, who obviously is now going on loan to Nice, but is a brilliant centre back in my opinion. Will grow, will step up eventually. Whether he's ready for that now, we don't know, but there we go. But to have Rob Holding in there at the moment, it's genuinely not a bad option. You can have worse. You can have much worse. Pablo Mari is another player who recently has stepped into the first team. Again, questions on whether he should be there or not, but he calms the defence, in my opinion. The last few games, I might be wrong, but I think Arsenal haven't conceded in the last 3 games that he's played in, and he defends as a unit, if that makes sense. He keeps the defence together and tight. So he'll defend with Tierney, with Holding, with Bellerin. And they all have an influence. Whereas when people say with Gabriel, obviously because he can't speak English, there's less of the sort of cohesion of the defence. And so Mari sort of brings that, which is it's an underrated influence you can have on a game to be sort of a link for the defence and bring people together and sort of move as a unit and keep that unit tight. It's a really good thing to have, to be honest, and it's a big influence of his game on that Arsenal squad. So again, keep so far. I think I'm going to highlight the ones I think they should get rid of, and so far it's only Socrates. Saying that, we've got Skodran Mustafi now, who hasn't had really a look in this season. I think he's played in a couple of cup games. I'm not sure if he's played in the Premier League. I think he might have played against Fulham. But I might be wrong. I've watched the Arsenal games. I just can't particularly remember. But Mustafi, in my opinion, 28, perhaps 29 at this stage in actual like real life. 90 grand a week according to Football Manager. I think he's the sort of player that they should look to get off the books to bring in some funds if they want to spend those elsewhere. But rumours are he's been offered a new contract at the club, which doesn't bode well, to be honest. It's quite clear, in my opinion, that he's not necessarily needed at Arsenal due to his lack of games. He's not, in my opinion, a particularly good player. I've never, I know he's a World Cup winner, but I've never seen him do anything where I think, yeah, that's fantastic play. If that makes sense, if you know what I mean. He's not that type of player. So for me, sell to raise funds while you still can get a bit of money out of him. I can see him going to Spain or back to Germany. So, I mean, Valencia have their own issues at the moment, but they do also have a history of signing players who were there before. So for Mustafi, for Arsenal, in my opinion, they need to look to offload him. Whether they do or not, I mean, they probably won't. But Mustafi should go. Hector Bellerin is a contentious one because he's been at Arsenal for so long. I believe he has homegrown status. So in terms of he counts towards players trained by the club or in the country, I believe. I might be completely off the mark with that, but as far as I'm aware, he counts towards that. Like I was saying with Rob Holding, where you need to keep him at the club to sort of have. But Hector Bellerin hasn't been very good this season. He's had the odd like impressive game, impressive performance, but I think in general he lacks the. I mean, he used to be rapid, and obviously he snapped his cruciate ligament a year ago, maybe more than that. I remember it happening. Um, and he's not really been the same player since. Probably more than a year ago, given he snapped it. But yeah, since then he's sort of died down a bit. He's not the same player. He can't use and rely on his pace as he used to. But he is still decent. You saw he won the penalty away at Old Trafford. The smart piece of play, just got his body across Pogba, earned the foul, earned the penalty, which obviously went on to be scored, and Arsenal won the game. So he can have an influence. But when you see interest from Barcelona, maybe Arsenal should look to get rid of him. I mean, here it says his value's around 27 million. I can't see Arsenal getting that money for him. I think it would be more between 20 and 25 million. But I think with Bellerin, maybe they should cash in, especially if rumours are to be believed, and you've got the likes of Tariq Lamparty as your target. I mean, he's a fantastic player who obviously I'll speak about in the Brighton video. But I think that's an upgrade, really. Lamparty is an upgrade on Bellerin. I mean, again, 25 is a young age, so again, he could be kept around the club. He'll be there. He's got 5 to 10 years, like I say, left in him. But I think it probably could be the time to cash in and bring in someone like Lamptey. You've got Maitland-Niles coming through, who always impresses, but I'm not too sure he's favourable for Mikel Arteta, and Cedric Suarez, who I'll speak about soon. But I don't. I think Arsenal are well equipped in the right back position to the point where I believe they could cash in on Hector Bellerin. So for me, it's a sell for Bellerin. Now David Luiz, I mean, I'm going to straight up say it: sell, get rid of him. His contract, if I quickly add a column here, contract general expiry date. So David Luiz's contract, I believe. Sorry, 1 second. Let me just highlight these players again. Oh God, we've gone wrong. Yeah, so sell David Luiz. His contract expires at the end of the season, so it's not going to be difficult to offload him. If he's causing these troubles in the dressing room, like rumours have, um, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer, really. If people are considering it to be between David Luiz and Mikel Arteta for sort of a power struggle at the club, I mean, the power ultimately has to be with the manager, not with these players who, I mean, I won't call his sort of attitude into question because I think it's always stupid to do that. But for a player who doesn't necessarily need to be at that club, if you know what I mean, he's there because he knows Edu. Same reason Willian's there, and there are rumours of discontent among those three specifically. So for him, just I think get rid of him at the end of his contract, let him expire, let him go. I don't know who want him, but on the other hand, I believe he is a leader in the dressing room. And I think you need those, especially with a squad that is young like Arsenal's, with a really young core to it at the moment. David Luiz sort of will inspire, will help and lead that group through. But it's whether he, as a person, is the right personality you want to have rubbing off on your young players. Which, to be honest, I don't believe he is. So then we move on and we've got Callum Chambers, who I believe is a fantastic player. I really like Callum Chambers. I'm not sure why, but I believe he's an excellent defender. I think he's more of a centre back than a right back, in my opinion. I know he was used as a right back at Southampton, likely signed as a right back for Arsenal, and I believe he's a centre back or a defensive midfielder where he played for Fulham and won their Player of the Year, and he was fantastic that season. Really impressive, does his job well, keeps things ticking. So I think to have him around the club, even if it's just as a backup, almost a last resort for Arsenal, because he's not being used too much this year for them. So I think I can see the club cashing in if they can get sort of 15 to 20 million for him. It'll be good business for them. But in my opinion, keep him at the club. He's a solid player. If you need to rely on him, he's there to rely on. For me, that's what I believe. But I can see someone like Fulham coming in for him, where he knows the club. He can really step in and make a difference at a club like that. Whereas with Arsenal, he'll always be on the sort of fringes of the squad. But for me, keep Callum Chambers. Now, Ainsley Maitland-Niles is an excellent young player. He's taken to the first team like a duck to water. He's really impressive. He can play a number of positions: right back, left back, wing back, midfield. I've seen him play on the wing before. So I think for the club, I think Arteta sees him as a fullback and probably as a backup fullback because he's not better than Kieran Tierney at left back, and he isn't. I don't know. I'd say he's probably. I personally, I'd have him over Bellerin this season at right back. He is a very impressive player. I really like him, but I think at times his attitude's been called into question by the club. I'm not saying that. It's sort of well documented that he's had his moments with Arteta. So I think they could look to sell, but in my opinion, he is a must keep. He's one of that young contingent that I was on about where they could really be sort of the future of Arsenal Football Club for years to come. And I believe he is one that should spearhead that along with the likes of Bukayo Saka, where if you can step into first team football as efficiently and effectively as Ainsley Maitland-Niles has, I don't think that's a thing to sort of be looked down upon. It's a fantastic achievement for him, and I mean we'll see where he can go with it. So again, keep definitely. Now, Cedric Suarez, I think again solid backup. I'm not entirely sure why they signed him permanently. I mean, the loan deal didn't make any sense, but we won't go into that. Um, he's not impressed massively while he's been at the club, but I suppose as a backup player, he he's not bad. Like you can't really knock him, but I just don't think he's that level for Arsenal. I mean, he wasn't the right level for Southampton. in the eyes of Ralph Hasenhüttl. So what the club see in him, what Arteta sees in him, I suppose we won't know. But I suppose as a backup, he's decent. But in my opinion, look to sell because I feel you could make a fair bit of money on him. I'm not entirely sure what the transfer fee was. I don't know if maybe his contract expired at Southampton, and so therefore they got him on a free. In which case, anywhere between 5 and 15 million is profit for Arsenal in that case. So it makes sense to sell, make profit. If the club was run efficiently and effectively, then I believe they probably would. But again, we don't know yet. So I think if Bellerin's at the club or you replace him with a new right back and you've got Ainsley Maitland-Niles waiting on the wings to step into the team, Cedric isn't really needed. Now, Kieran Tierney, what a fantastic player Kieran Tierney is. Excellent, really is. Like the step up that he's taken from Scottish football, where obviously he was the captain at Celtic, into this Arsenal side, and he's been really one of the driving forces behind any positives that you can make from this team. I know it's not been the best season for them so far, but in terms of individual influence, Kieran Tierney really has stepped up. I mean, fantastic defensively, great leader, does a fantastic left foot. You can whip across really effectively, get chances created. If you get numbers in the box, Tierney will find them. He is really an excellent left back. So, Kieran Tierney is a must keep for Arsenal, a future captain, in my opinion. And he is a really, really excellent player. So Kalasinach, I won't speak about because he's gone. He has moved to Schalke, where I believe he's becoming their captain, which is a bit strange. I know he was there before, but yeah, again, he's not been good enough for Arsenal, so off he goes. Mohamed Elneny, another one who isn't. If you're thinking of Arsenal as pushing for Champions League football, and in the future, hopefully for them, for their fans, pushing for a title. Mohamed Elneny isn't necessarily the type of player that's going to lead you there, but he's a player who works hard for the squad, works hard for the club. You can tell that he's happy to be there and proud to be represented in Arsenal Football Club. So I think to have him, you see his energy in midfield in it, like the game against Manchester United, where he pressed relentlessly, forcing errors from the likes of Victor Lindelof, really just forcing the issue for Arsenal, making things happen, whether it's mainly off the ball, with his pressing, with his influence. And he's a good option to have waiting in the wings, but for me he's not a starter and he's not really long term. Age 28, 2, 3 years maybe you get out of him at a semi decent level. So I mean it's a difficult one. So I'll probably say keep for now. Maybe look to bring in another player of that sort of mould, but for now keep Mohamed Elneny. Now Thomas Partey, I mean obviously keep. Fantastic player. It's a shame that he's had a few injury issues at Arsenal, which is is strange because before his move, he'd never had a sustained period out through injuries. Like he's missed the odd game, but I believe I saw something that he's never missed more than a week or two with injuries, and he's been out for quite a while since arriving at Arsenal. But as a player, he's fantastic. His influence on the pitch is almost unmatched in this squad. And he's a must-start player. And the sort of player, like I was saying with Elneny, Partey is the sort of player that can lead you to Champions League football and lead you to pushing for titles in the future. He's a really good sort of building block to base your team around. Now, Granit Xhaka is a player that massively, massively divides opinion. One week he's amazing, the next week he's reckless, the next week he's great, and the next week he doesn't deserve to be at the club. Now, I like Granit Xhaka. I feel he's a good player, a good influence. and perhaps not good influence. He can be petulant sometimes, silly red cards that he gets, silly fouls he gives away. But I feel he offers something that not many players really do. The way he drops deep into holding positions, sometimes in between the two defenders as the fullbacks push higher. He can pick the ball up and find some fantastic balls at times out to the likes of Aubameyang, Saka, Rhys Nelson, whoever you want to have on the wing. He has a fantastic ability to switch the play to find almost inch perfect long balls. And I think, to be honest, he's the sort of player that should be a mainstay in the team. I mean, he's a bit old now to be. I was going to say if he can get over his sort of temperament issues, but he's a bit old for that. I feel that might be a thing that you sort of have to almost. I'm not entirely sure how to phrase it. I feel it's an aspect of his game that you have to overlook in favour of his quality that he does bring. And now, at times, it may negatively influence the side and sort of the atmosphere around the club. But I believe he's the sort of player that you need in that first team to sort of keep things ticking, keep things going. Now, right, these two next players that I'm going to be speaking about, Bukayo Saka and Joe Willock. If I'm being honest, Bukayo Saka might be my favourite player at the moment. He's a fantastic little player. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I actually love this guy. What an amazing player. 19 years old, stepped into the Arsenal team, makes a real influence. He's probably been their best player, their biggest creative influence, whether it's at left wing back, whether it's at left wing, right wing, left-sided central midfielder. He's fantastic at that. Now, he can control a game, a wand of a left foot and an excellent right foot to match. He maybe needs to work on his finishing, but that will come with time. You have to bear in mind this kid's so young and has played probably about a year now in first team football, and he's really gaining the kind of experience that you can see he's learning from. His goal against West Brom was excellent, excellent movement, pass, move into the box. He's making those direct runs. He's getting into positions, and that's what you want from your creative players. And he's really sort of turned a switch almost into being a young player to being a real influence on this Arsenal team, where he makes such a difference to the side whenever he plays, and he has this maturity to his game already that not a lot of other players have. This kid is you need to build the team around him for 10, 15 years coming. This kid will be the face of Arsenal Football Club. And to be honest, he's already going that way. If there's any player on this list, I would say you have to keep him for the foreseeable future is Bukayo Saka. Joe Willock, another young player. He's not quite taken the step up like Ainsley Maitland-Niles, like Bukayo Saka, and like Emil Smith-Rowe, who I'm sure I'll speak about later. But he's still, you can see there's quality there. When in the Europa League, he has sort of attributes of Aaron Ramsey to him, arriving in the box, getting the team forward. He loves to get on the ball, move with it, run with it, make things happen, drag the team forward. When at times, I remember there was a point against Liverpool where it was sort of during the peak of Arsenal's lacking creativity, which has only just stopped really. But I remember Joe Willock came on and he just got on the ball, beat a couple of men and won a free kick close to the box. And it was sort of a spark and a light of what Arsenal need in their squad, a bit of drive, a bit of desire. And if Joe Willock can sort of develop further and learn the role that Arteta wants him to play, he again could be a player that this team is shaped around. He just needs to be more consistent and just needs to ease his way into the first team, start getting more appearances in the Premier League, start making more of a difference when he does play. Because in the Europa League, he's fantastic. I think the step up from quality from the likes of, I think Arsenal played Rapid Vienna and Dundalk, who are a semi-professional side. I mean, the step up from that to playing Premier League football is quite big, but I think he can take that step just slowly. Danny Ceballos is a good player. I mean, where is he? He's a good player. Does he do much? I'm not sure. He's more apt at beating a press and beating a man than the likes of Mohamed Elneny, but he doesn't offer too much. He's quite good on the ball. He's definitely smart. He's an intelligent player. He does slow it down a bit. He sort of the influence he has on the game isn't always positive, and he doesn't always do a lot for the side. And I feel there's players out there that Arsenal can and probably will get who are just as, if not much better, at beating a press and beating a man than Danny Ceballos is, and at the same time offer more quality to their game. So I think when his loan expires, he's a get rid. Don't try and bring him in permanently. Don't try and extend his loan again. He should leave at the end of his loan period. Willian, where do we go with this? I mean, on his debut against Fulham, 3 assists. You look and you're thinking, wow, this guy, he's come and he's brought that influence that they hoped he would. He's had that effect on the squad that obviously Arteta and Edu were hoping he would. But recently, similar to David Luiz, there's some discontent. His performances have been shocking, to be honest. Shocking performances. And off the pitch, apparently causing issues as well. Clashing with Arteta on the side of David Luiz and Edu. And you can sort of believe what you want with regard to rumours with them around the club. But for me, I mean, if it's possible, I'm not entirely sure it will be because I don't see who wants him and where he would go. But he isn't a player that I would want at the club. Reese Nelson, another one of the youth contingent that I love. To be perfectly honest, these Arsenal youth players are fantastic, and I really enjoy watching them. I've enjoyed watching them come through the ranks, and now they're making an influence at the top level, at Premier League level. Rhys Nelson, again, a bit like Joe Willock, he's been fantastic in the Europa League, but when he takes that next step up into Premier League football, it's sort of neither here nor there as to whether he actually has that much of an influence on the squad. And I feel he can, with the issues regarding Nicolas Pepe and Willian, Nelson could be the player to step up and fill that wing role. So, again, Reese is an excellent little player, proper diamond, but he's raw. And I think he just needs that little bit of almost focus in his game where he needs to sort out what he wants to be. Are you a direct winger that takes on a man? Or do you want to drop deeper and start creating from the wing? It's really, he's an explosive winger and he can have a big influence and he's got a big future. Maybe loan him out, I'd say. Get Reese to go maybe to a lower Premier League side, the likes of even Crystal Palace. I'd love him at Palace. But just a lower Premier League team that he needs to get that experience, to work his way into the Arsenal side and to earn his space. While I'm speaking about this, I realise he's not on this list. I want to speak about Emil Smith-Rowe because this boy has made such a difference to the way Arsenal play. And maybe he's the key to that creativity issue. Since he's come in, Arsenal won 3 games on the bounce. And I believe he's the missing link almost. Now, people have said that it's not necessarily him, it's just playing with a 10 that can do the basics. And as much as I agree with that, I think Emil is much more than just the basics type of player. He's fantastic at beating a man. Excellent sense of balance. Centre of gravity is fantastic. He can move the ball well. He's got an intelligence to his game that a lot of players seem to lack. There was a couple of times in the game against Huddersfield against West Brom, where he'd pick the ball up, drive past a man, beat his man, and find a ball. His assist for Bukayo Saka was so intelligent and mature for his game. A lot of young players will go through there, see the goal, and think, "Oh yes, here's my time," and shoot and probably miss. But he squared it. He looked up, kept his composure, found Bukayo Saka. Beautiful. There was a time where he played a 1-2 with Lacazette that completely dropped two defenders out of the game. There's just a little intelligence and maturity to his game that I feel not a lot of players his age have, and that I feel could really see him become a mainstay in this Arsenal side if they don't do much business in January. Mesut Ozil is a player who massively divides opinion, but I feel at the moment we're leaning towards one side. And I follow and interact a fair bit with Ozil things. He's sort of an infamous Twitter account at this point, where he almost makes me lean towards Mesut Ozil being a fantastic player, but I'm not too sure he is anymore. Obviously, he has that quality and experience at the top level, but I feel if he's not going to be playing for Arsenal, which he isn't really, he has to be let go at the end of his contract. Nicolas Pepe is so difficult, so difficult. I really like Pepe as a player. I feel he sort of brings something to the Arsenal side that not a lot of their other players do, but he just doesn't have that, like, there's just something about him. His decision making isn't brilliant. His end product isn't always great. I know he has a half decent goal and assist record for Arsenal, but when he sort of gets in those positions, he doesn't always provide. I mean, he's capable of doing something magical, capable of really making an influence, dragging the game by the scruff of the neck. But at the same time, he can vanish in a team. He can really not look at it at all. You have to sort of decide between the brilliance he can bring or cutting your losses and admitting that he's not been the player that you thought he was. I believe they're never going to make the £72 million they spent on him back, but I feel they should maybe sell and look to bring in a more consistent player or use the youth players, use Reese Nelson, use Bukayo Saka in that position, who, to be honest, have performed better than Nicolas Pepe. Cut your losses and see if they can get 40, 50, maybe 55 million for Nicolas Pepe to maybe an Inter Milan, who I know were interested. Maybe go back to France. Anyone who maybe would take Nicolas Pepe. And again, it's a really difficult one for me on whether to keep or sell. But I think at this point, I have to say sell. I think it's a difficult one though. If they kept him, I wouldn't be too surprised and I wouldn't be too upset with it. But I feel it's better to cut your losses while you still can instead of keeping him at the club until, I mean, at the moment he's 25, 26. So if you keep him at the club until he's 28, it may be too late to recuperate any of the money that you spent. Eddie Nketiah is a fantastic striker, in my opinion. He brings something that, again, I keep saying it, but not a lot of players his age really have. He's very intelligent. He's a proper poacher and a sort of penalty box striker. He'll get in the right position where he'll guarantee you goals. The ball come across, he's there. The ball comes out, it's spilled by the keeper, he's there. A defender scuffs the clearance, there's Eddie Nketiah sweeping up. And he may not have the sort of on the ball ability, technical ability, and sort of prowess, but he guarantees goals, especially in a side that can create. And I know this Arsenal side struggles with creation, but if you unlock that Nketiah guarantees goals, and I believe he has to be kept around the squad for the coming years. If you wanted to bring in a better striker, I'll speak about these two in a second. Maybe Nketiah could go out on loan to a lower Premier League team, or even sort of a mid-level one. If Wolves continue to struggle, I know they have Raul Jimenez coming back, but for now, where he's out, maybe a loan deal could prove beneficial. But I think keep Nketiah at the club. Aubameyang, Pierre, Pierre, what has gone wrong this season? Is it simply another case of the big contracts being offered to a player? He takes it and he sits on that contract and he thinks, yeah, that's me. I'm done. I've got my contract. I've got my money. I'm getting paid. I don't need to put in that effort anymore. Or is it a case of he's just sort of he's not at the top of his game at the moment. He's not confident. He's not getting in positions. He's not taking his chances. But I feel especially, I keep referencing the game against West Brom only because it's just happened. But Aubameyang was by far the worst Arsenal player on the pitch. He lacked drive. There was a couple of times where he bottled chances. There was one where Bukayo Saka stepped in on his left and bent across towards the back post. Aubameyang was running onto it and never really committed because he was scared of hitting the post. He was scared of running into the post. If he throws himself at that chance, he scores 100%, but he didn't. He sort of hung his leg out, almost pretended to commit to it, and never really made that opportunity what it should have been. And it should have been a goal. Again, there was a time he's running at a defender. You see against Fulham and against either Chelsea or Man City in that same position, coming from the left, coming inside, step on his right, curl it in. This time, tries to be too clever, goes on his left, massively narrows the angle, and then drills his shot straight at the goalkeeper. I don't think he's offering enough this year, but obviously he's a keep because he does have that quality. I mean, in our prediction video, I had Aubameyang as the Golden Boot winner because he does bring that quality. He's a goal getter, and I believe sort of when he gets one, then he'll kick on and get more. And the more Arsenal create, then the more chances he'll get, and therefore the more goals he'll score, and they will come. But it's just at the moment he's really not. He's a shadow of what he can be. Lacazette, another player that I know massively divides opinion amongst Arsenal fans. There's all sorts of sort of slander that I see for this man, and I do agree with it. He's not a sort of advanced striker. He's not a player who's going to bang you goals every game. He's not a player that will dig you out of a hole. But his influence on the game, now that you've seen against West Brom, against Brighton, he's being used properly in the role that he should be being used in, where he's a deeper player and he drops deep and he holds the ball up and he finds the wingers and he finds the midfielders who are running beyond him and creates chance as well as getting into the box himself and being a poacher, finishing opportunities that are provided for him because he can finish. He can score goals. I think to use him in that proper role is what Arsenal should have been doing from the start. And now that they are doing it, you can see his value for the club. And for me, he's a player you have to keep. Now, we'll move on to tactics and ignore the roles. So ignore advanced forward, wingers, centre mids, etc. We'll just look at it as positions. I'm not going to do these tactics. I'm just going to speak. And I'll go through and give you what I believe should be the Arsenal first 11. So obviously in goal, Bernd Leno. There's no debate. The other goalkeepers are really average players. Leno is one of the most effective goalkeepers in the league. Now at right back, I've got Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Hector Bellerin, again, is a good player, but he doesn't quite have the influence that they'll be hoping that he has and the effect on the team that he sort of used to have. I believe Ainsley offers that little bit more. And if Arsenal are to look to get rid of Bellerin, Ains should really be put in and he can work to developing into their first choice right back. On the left, Kieran Tierney, again, no debate, fantastic player. I've already spoken about all of these players. But to have Tierney on the left, moving up and down at times when I'll speak about the winger, but it will step inside. And Tierney is a massive influence up and down this left wing, getting to these sorts of positions, whipping crosses in. Even from deeper, he can whip across. You saw coming inside against West Brom, and he scores goals. He's a fantastic attacking influence, and probably plays more as a wing back than a right back, as does Ainsley Maitland-Niles. But for the sake of what it looks like, we'll keep them there. Now, the holding player, the deeper midfielder, you've got options here. Callum Chambers as a defensive midfielder, Mohamed Elneny sweeping, Thomas Partey. People say he should learn to play as a 6 rather than his preferred sort of box-to-box 8. But for me, it's Granit Xhaka here. Now, he can sort of, as I've said, he drops into these sorts of positions between the centre-backs, in the left-back, well, not necessarily left-back, but covers this space here, covers this space. He can pick the ball up and deliver passes wide here, and even over the top for any on-running striker. I feel he's a crucial player to have here, and a player that can really link attack and defence, and midfield and defence. I feel in this deeper line position, it gives him the ability to have more space to find his pinpoint passes. Whereas in midfield, he has less time. He's expected to move the ball quicker. So for me, Xhaka has to play deep. Now, I've just realised I skipped over the centre backs. So we'll go in. And the centre back pairing for me that Arsenal have to lead with is Gabrielle on the left. Now, it's really between him and Pablo Mari for that position. But Gabrielle is the better player, the calmer influence, and just the player who really is the rock and the diamond in the crown of the Arsenal defence. Now at right centre back, I believe Arsenal, this is a real problem position, and they're looking to fill gaps here. So for now, Rob Holding takes the space, but you're looking at more better defensive players who can have an influence from there alongside Gabriel, build a real partnership there. But until they get that, we have Rob Holding. Now, on the right side of central midfield, there's no debate, it's Thomas Partey. As a box-to-box player, he can get back and win the ball and then carry it forward, a real proper ball carrier. Get it forward, pass into these strikers, wingers, even a further forward attacking player here, attacking midfielder, who will pick up spaces for Partey to then find. He can do it all, really, Thomas Partey. And he's a player, a must-have player in that Arsenal side. And he's probably the biggest influence Arsenal can and will have for the rest of the season on any team. On the left side of central midfield, again, it's a difficult one. Do you go with the defensive and workhorse presence of Mohamed Elneny? Do you go with Dani Ceballos, who is better at beating a press, beating a man, playing the ball, advancing the play? Or do you go with Joe Willock, which I do? And a player who can be moulded in the style of Aaron Ramsey for Arsenal, where he can break the lines, get in here, or let's switch it a bit. Let's keep Xhaka deep like this, and it will almost be a formation like this, where it doesn't look pretty on paper, but realistically it's this. But Xhaka will drop deeper here, and he'll probably play more left-sided. And in this position, you have Emil Smith-Rowe, who again, for some reason, is not in the Arsenal squad on here. Actually, if I do this, I think he's in the under-23s. Bear with me. Yes, here he is. Emil Smith-Rowe. He is the missing link for Arsenal. I've said it already. This boy is fantastic, an excellent 10, and who Arsenal should be playing with. I know they're going to look at Houssem Aouar, Julian Brandt, Emi Buendia to fill this hole. But for now, Emil Smith-Rowe is that man. If they did decide to play deeper again, Joe Willock, I'd say, would be that deeper influence for them. But it's looking at the moment like that 10 is really necessary for Arsenal. And this is how I believe they should play. Partey here, Smith-Rowe is the advanced 10, drifting into these sorts of areas, even coming deep to get the ball, going wide. He's almost a free player in this Arsenal side. Partey moving box to box. And that is the biggest thing in recent games that Arsenal have needed, this 10 to link play and create. On the left, it has to be. Oh, that reminds me. If we go back to the squad, there's another player that I missed. And again, I'm assuming he'll be in the under 23s for Arsenal, which is strange. And why I missed him out, here he is. Let's move him to the first team. Gabrielle Martinelli. What a fantastic player this boy is. A real influence up front. He can press, he's dynamic, he can run, he can finish, he can head the ball. He's a proper number 9, but also offers more than that, and he offers a presence. You see when he came back into the team, he's pressing quickly, making real influence, causing trouble for the defence, coming inside off the left. So, for me, here, and I'm glad I remembered because I almost completely forgot, Gabrielle Martinelli is that man. Now, he'll almost play here for Arsenal. And this formation doesn't really make sense if I have it laid out like this. But it is a 4-3-3. But Martinelli almost plays in this role, just wide of the striker, where he's an inside forward, really. Where he'll be wide, but he'll come inside and operate as a 9. Come into the box, finish his chances, get in great positions, press the players. And now you see presses all across the front line. If the ball's being worked around the defence, Martinelli will sprint after it. And it's an underrated influence on the Arsenal team. Just a bit of snap, a bit of vibe to just keep that attack like sharp. Now here, as the sort of focal point, we have Lacazette, and he'll drop deep into these sorts of positions with Martinelli ahead of him, with Smith-Rowe ahead of him, with the winger who I think we can guess who I'm putting there, to move also ahead of him. But Lacazette dropping into these positions, finding passes, holding a play up, and then making runs into the box himself so that Martinelli, so that the winger, so that Smith-Rowe can find him in the box and he'll finish his chances. Is an important role in the Arsenal team and an important decision for Arteta to make, to have Lacazette as his focal striker, especially when on the wing we have Bukayo Saka, which means, of course, Aubameyang misses out from my team. Now, Lacazette will drop deep, as I've said. Martinelli comes inside, and Saka drifts. He drops into centre mid. He drops as almost a right midfielder rather than a winger. He can come over to the left, swap almost with Martinelli, sweep up round here as Smith-Rowe also drifts. So Smith-Rowe could find himself over here, while Saka is now here, making his influence on this side. It's a really fluid Arsenal team, Arsenal formation. And to have Saka come in, he can come inside and deliver with his left, as you see his cross to the back post for Aubameyang. He can go wide right. Again, another cross in that game, with his right foot comes across and forces an error from, I believe it was Semi Ajayi. So he, as an influence on the right-hand side, he is fantastic. He can go on his right, go on his left, drift inside and create, go wide and be an option for any play that Arsenal want to drag and stretch teams. You see his goal against Chelsea, which I believe was absolutely intentional, where he's chipped Edouard Mendy. And he's an excellent player. You cannot leave him out of the side. And now that's my Arsenal team. As much as it doesn't make sense, if I put everyone in the positions that they'll actually play, that team looks ridiculous. But on paper, you just have this. It's a simple 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. Martinelli again, everyone will play. Martinelli will come inside and play as sort of a wide nine. Saka will create from this wing, come across, drift around. Smith Rowe will be primarily left-sided with his advanced play getting into the gaps, almost filling the space that will be left by Martinelli as he comes across into the striker position. Granit Xhaka dropping back, picking up the ball from deep, almost dropping between the centre-backs at times like this, as Tierney pushes forward into a wing-back role, with Maitland-Niles also fulfilling that role, where they'll overlap down the wings, both of them, look to get balls in the box. Maitland-Niles can look to create, look to link up with Saka, Partey, Smith Rowe. Lacazette again will come deep, find Saka, Martinelli, Smith Rowe ahead of him. If Partey wants to make a forward run, Tierney down the left. There's options for Lacazette to find in behind from this sort of position that he'll take up. And then when they get wide and they want to create, he'll burst forward and be in the box, be in that 10 position, be in that 9 position, almost a 9.5 as I've seen it described. He almost is the link for this team. The sort of that role is almost the most important position in this team. Emil Smith Rowe drifts around the pitch anywhere he wants to be, picking up the ball deep, driving forward, picking up the ball wide and finding balls forward. Again, he is the link between midfield and attack and the creative force that Arsenal really did miss out on. So that, as ridiculous as it looks, is my Arsenal team. I hope you enjoy this. I hope it provides some insight, some sort of. I hope I don't seem like I'm crazy speaking about all of this, but I feel that hopefully this series goes well. I'll cover every Premier League team, and then if you want me to go further with it, then I can cover European teams eventually at some point. Any feedback is, as always, massively, massively appreciated, and just any support on this, again, appreciated. Please let me know. Did you enjoy anything you would feel you would do with this Arsenal team? Again, put it in the comments. Reply to me on Twitter. DM me on Twitter. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Enjoy.